Madison never expected the sound of her own footsteps to feel so loud as she crossed the marble foyer of the Whitmore house again, the place she once called home and then swore she'd never return to, yet here she was, heart hammering, palms damp, replaying every sharp word that ended things with Chelsea just days earlier. The breakup still raw and unresolved, a wound that stung with every breath. Because loving Chelsea had been like standing in the sun, warm, exhilarating, and dangerous all at once, and now that warmth was gone, replaced by a cold ache that made Madison question every decision she'd made in the last 5 years, including the one that brought her back to the gates she thought she'd closed forever. The camera lingers as she pauses beneath the chandelier, its crystal prisms casting fractured light across her face, a visual echo of how split she feels inside, torn between the life she tried to build forward and the one she left behind. And when the front door closes with a soft but final click, Madison exhales as if bracing for impact, because this reunion isn't just about seeking comfort. It's about confronting the ghosts of her marriage, her motherhood, and the woman she used to be before heartbreak reshaped her into someone harder, sharper, and more guarded than she ever wanted to be. The breakup with Chelsea had been messy, fueled by exhaustion and miscommunication, a slow erosion rather than a single explosive fight, though the final argument still rang in Madison's ears. Chelsea accusing her of never fully letting go of her past, Madison firing back that Chelsea didn't understand what it meant to lose a family and then try to rebuild yourself from the rubble. Both of them crying. Both of them right and wrong at the same time, and when Chelsea walked out, the silence that followed felt heavier than any shouting ever could. Madison told herself it was for the best, that love shouldn't feel like constant negotiation, but late at night, alone in her apartment, she missed the way Chelsea laughed at her worst jokes, the way she reached for Madison's hand in crowded rooms, the way she believed, truly believed, that Madison deserved happiness without conditions, and it was that belief that made the loss cut so deep, because Madison wasn't sure she believed it herself anymore. It was never part of the plan for Madison to go back to her ex-husband Ethan, but life has a way of coming back around when you least expect it. When Madison got the call that their son Lucas had asked about her, really asked, not the polite, distant check-in she was used to, it cracked something open inside her. Lucas was 17 now, not the little boy she tucked in every night, but not quite the man he was becoming either. Madison had missed so much, like birthdays marked by brief phone calls and school plays watched through grainy videos Ethan sent afterward. She told herself she was fine missing those things because she needed to find herself, because staying would have meant drowning in resentment and regret. But the truth was uglier and simpler. She was afraid of failing as a mother, afraid of repeating the mistakes that ruined her marriage, and afraid of looking into her son's eyes and seeing disappointment staring back. Ethan appears at the top of the stairs. He looks older and more tired, but he is still clearly the man she once loved, fought with, and built a life with before it all fell apart. They both don't know what to say for a moment, as if years of history were weighing down the moment. Then Ethan clears his throat and says her name, Madison, in that familiar way that used to calm her down but now makes her chest tighten. Hearing it reminds her of late-night talks about dreams they never reached, fights that got out of hand because neither of them knew how to listen, and love that didn't go away but broke under pressure. Madison manages a small smile, the kind that doesn't quite reach her eyes as she replies, Ethan. The camera cuts between them, capturing the unspoken understanding that no matter what they are now, they can never be strangers. Their conversation starts off carefully, like people do when they're afraid of reopening old wounds. But underneath, emotions are churning. When Ethan says that Lucas is in his room studying for finals, Madison's composure slips just enough for the audience to see the fear flash across her face. It's one thing to face her ex-husband, but it's another thing entirely to face her son. As she climbs the stairs, each step feels like a countdown, and memories flood back with every turn. The chipped banister Lucas used to slide down, the framed photos of family vacations that now feel like relics from another lifetime. When she reaches Lucas's door, she hesitates, hand hovering, wondering if knocking is enough to bridge the years she's lost. Lucas opens the door himself, and he's taller, broader, and sharper-eyed than she thought. For a moment, he just stares at her, his face a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Madison's heart breaks and heals all at once because she sees parts of herself in him, the same stubborn set of the jaw, the same guarded expression. She whispers his name like a prayer, "Lucas," her voice shaking despite her best efforts. He swallows hard and steps aside to let her in. This small gesture is huge because it means he is inviting her into his space and life, something she has been wanting and fearing at the same time. Their first conversation is halting, filled with pauses and careful words, as if both are afraid that saying too much or too little will shatter the fragile truce forming between them, and Lucas asks about her life, about where she's been, about why she left, questions he's held on to for years, and Madison answers honestly for the first time, admitting that she was overwhelmed, that she felt lost, that she thought leaving was the only way to survive, but that it doesn't mean she stopped loving him. Never for a second, and Lucas listens, arms crossed, eyes searching her face for the truth, and when he finally speaks, his voice cracks as he confesses that he was angry for a long time, angry at her for choosing herself, angry at his father for defending her, angry at a world that didn't look like the one he was promised as a kid. And Madison feels tears spill over, because this is the reckoning she knew was coming. The moment she is to accept that her choices had consequences far beyond her own pain. As the day goes on, Madison stays longer than she planned, having dinner with Ethan and Lucas. The three of them have to deal with this strange new dynamic of being a family again without pretending the past didn't happen. There are times when things are lighthearted, like when Lucas teases Madison about her outdated music taste and Ethan rolls his eyes at their banter, and there are times when things are tense, like when Lucas brings up college plans that Madison didn't know about. The reminder of how much she's missed hitting her like a punch to the gut, but instead of shutting down, she asks questions, listens, leans in, and refuses to fall back into old patterns of withdrawal and avoidance. As the day goes on, Madison stays longer than she planned. She eats dinner with Ethan and Lucas, and the three of them deal with this strange new dynamic of being a family again without pretending the past didn't happen. There are times when they laugh. Lucas makes fun of Madison's old-fashioned music taste, and Ethan rolls his eyes at their banter, and times when they are tense, like when Lucas talks about college plans that Madison didn't know about. The reminder of how much she misses him hits her like a punch to the gut, but instead of shutting down, she asks questions, listens, and leans in, determined not to fall back into her old patterns of withdrawal and avoidance. As Lucas asks Madison if she's seeing anyone, flashes of Chelsea come to mind. Madison hesitates before answering truthfully that she was, but isn't anymore. The words taste bitter and unresolved because part of her wonders if this reunion with her past is proof that Chelsea was right, that Madison never truly let go. Another part insists that healing isn't linear, that loving her son and reconnecting with her ex-husband doesn't erase the love she had with Chelsea, doesn't make it any less real or meaningful. As the night deepens, Madison steps outside onto the back patio, needing air. The cool breeze is a balm against her racing thoughts. Ethan joins her and offers a quiet presence instead of empty words. They talk, not about why their marriage ended, but about who they are now, how they've changed, and how they haven't. Madison is surprised by how easy it is between them. They both seem to have grown enough to admit their mistakes without using them against each other. When Ethan says he never stopped believing she was a good mother, even when she doubted it herself, Madison feels something inside her loosen, a knot she's been carrying for years that is finally starting to come undone. When Lucas joins them outside, the three of them stand under the stars, and Lucas tells Madison that he wants her to be a part of his life again, not just as a visitor, but as someone who shows up and stays. Madison promises him she will, not with grand gestures or unrealistic vows, but with steady presence, honesty, and the willingness to do the work. As she hugs her son, the camera zooms in on her face, tears streaming down her cheeks, because this reunion isn't about forgetting the past, it's about accepting it and choosing a different future. Madison drives away from the house one last time, and the gates close behind her again. This time, though, the closure doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like a change, a step towards something new. While she waits at a red light, her phone buzzes with a message from Chelsea asking, "Are you okay?" That sends Madison's heart racing, the unresolved thread dangling tantalizingly before the audience. Because while Madison has taken a significant step toward healing her family, her romantic future remains uncertain. And Beyond the Gates leaves viewers with the understanding that love, in all its forms, is rarely simple, often messy, and always worth fighting for, especially when it forces you to confront who you are, who you were, and who you still have the potential to become. Madison doesn't notice. She's crying until the horn behind her blares, snapping her back to the present, the red light turning green as she wipes her cheeks and pulls forward. Chelsea's text still glowing on her phone like a quiet accusation she's not ready to answer, because right now her heart is split into too many pieces to manage at once. Mother, ex-wife, ex-lover, woman trying desperately to forgive herself, and as she drives through the city streets, the familiar skyline feels unfamiliar again, like she's seeing it through new eyes, eyes that have finally accepted that running away never actually solved anything. It just postponed the pain until it grew teeth. Madison sinks onto the couch in her apartment without turning on the lights. The silence is thick and heavy. For the first time since the breakup, she lets herself fully feel the loss of Chelsea. Their relationship ended not with anger, but with exhaustion, which somehow feels worse because exhaustion doesn't go away. It stays. Madison remembers their last moments together, when Chelsea stood by the door with tears streaming down her face and asked, "Do you even know what you want?" Madison didn't have an answer then, and she might not have one now either. But something has changed since she saw Lucas and heard him say he wants her back in his life. For the first time in years, Madison knows one thing for sure. She wants to stay. The next morning, Madison wakes up to a missed call from Ethan. Her stomach tightens as she listens to his voicemail. His voice is calm but cautious as he explains that Lucas asked if she could come to his debate tournament that weekend. Madison's breath catches because it's such a normal request, such a simple thing, yet it feels huge, like an olive branch extended with trembling hands. She immediately calls Ethan back and agrees before fear can talk her out of it. On the other end of the line, Ethan sounds relieved, almost hopeful, which makes her feel worse than hostility ever could. Madison sits in the audience at the tournament, holding her coffee like a lifeline. She is very aware of her presence and wonders if she even deserves to be there. When Lucas steps up to the podium and starts to speak, confidently, clearly, and passionately, pride swells in her chest so fiercely it almost hurts. This is the son she helped shape even from afar. When he finishes and the audience applauds, he locks eyes with her across the room and gives her a small nod. Madison feels something click into place, a sense of belonging she thought she had lost forever. But Beyond the Gates never lets healing happen without problems. After Madison congratulates Lucas, a woman named Serena, who is Ethan's girlfriend, approaches. She is polite but guarded, with a tight smile that makes it clear she feels threatened but won't admit it. Madison immediately understands the unspoken tension and fear that Serena is there to take something that doesn't belong to her anymore. Madison gently reassures Serena that she is not trying to disrupt anyone's life, only to be there for her son. But even as she says this, she wonders if it is completely true, because the pull toward this broken family is stronger than she thought it would be. Chelsea, on the other hand, is spiraling in her own quiet way. She watches Madison's social media updates from afar and sees that Madison is no longer in pain and is instead grounded in something. Chelsea is torn between missing Madison fiercely and being angry that Madison seems to be finding clarity only after leaving her behind. When Chelsea finally confronts Madison at her apartment without warning, the confrontation is electric, raw, and unavoidable. Chelsea demands to know if Madison went back to her ex-husband, and Madison snaps back that reconnecting with her son doesn't mean betrayal. Both women are speaking from wounded places that refuse to heal cleanly. The argument gets worse until Madison finally says what she's been too scared to say, that loving Chelsea made her face parts of herself that she'd been hiding under guilt and regret. But she couldn't fully show up because she hadn't finished dealing with her past. Chelsea, whose voice was breaking, says she always felt like she was competing with ghosts, an ex-husband, a child, a life Madison left but never really mourned, and this admission leaves Madison speechless. For the first time, she realizes that Chelsea wasn't asking her to choose between love and family, but between honesty. As Madison becomes a more regular part of Lucas's life, things start to fall apart in other areas, especially with Ethan. His carefully balanced life starts to wobble under the weight of unresolved feelings. When Serena confronts him and accuses him of still being in love with Madison, Ethan denies it too quickly. The truth is uncomfortable between them because he doesn't want to get back together with Madison, but he also can't deny that Madison's return has brought up something unfinished, something that never got proper closure. At a family dinner meant to show that everything is fine, Lucas innocently talks about wanting Madison to be at his graduation. Serena gets angry. Chelsea shows up out of the blue after Madison invites her in a moment of reckless honesty, and suddenly the table is full of unresolved feelings, half-truths, and years of resentment bubbling under forced smiles. Finally, Chelsea asks the question that everyone has been avoiding. So, what exactly are we doing here? And the room goes quiet because no one knows what to say. Madison stands up, shaking but determined. She admits that she doesn't have everything figured out and that she's made mistakes she can't fix. But she won't keep running away from the people she loves out of fear. She makes it clear that Lucas is her top priority and that she's willing to take things slowly and honestly, even if it means being alone for a while. This speech isn't dramatic or sweeping. It's messy and imperfect, just like her journey. But it lands, especially with Lucas, who watches his mother with newfound respect, seeing not the woman who left, but the one who came back willing to own the damage. The episode closes with Madison and Lucas sharing a quiet moment outside, away from the chaos. Lucas admitting that he's still angry sometimes, that trust doesn't magically return, and Madison agreeing, telling him she's not asking for forgiveness, only the chance to earn it, and as they sit side by side under the fading light, the camera pulls back slowly, framing them against the gates in the distance. No longer symbols of separation but of the long, difficult road toward reconciliation. While Chelsea watches from afar, Ethan wrestles with his heart, and Beyond the Gates reminds viewers that coming home isn't about reclaiming what was. It's about choosing who you're brave enough to be now. Madison doesn't sleep that night, not after the disastrous dinner that left every relationship in the room cracked and bleeding, because every time she closes her eyes, she sees Lucas's face, hopeful but guarded, forgiving but not healed. And she realizes with startling clarity that coming back into her son's life isn't a single act of courage, but 1,000 small ones she will have to repeat every day, especially when the people around him are already forming battle lines over who gets to stay and who gets pushed out. And by morning, she knows one thing for sure. The gates didn't just reopen for her. They exposed every lie that's been quietly festering on the other side. Serena is the first to make a move, but she does it with a smile that could cut through steel. She corners Ethan in the kitchen under the pretense of concern, sweetly reminding him that stability is important to Lucas and that sudden upheaval can undo years of careful healing. Ethan bristles because he hears the implication clearly, that Madison is chaos and that her return is a threat. When he pushes back, insisting that Lucas deserves his mother, Serena's composure cracks just enough to show the fear underneath. She is not afraid that Madison will take Ethan back. She is afraid that Madison will take Lucas, emotionally, if not physically. That fear turns into something much more dangerous than jealousy. Chelsea, on the other hand, is going in the opposite direction. She is pulling away from herself and questioning everything she thought she knew about herself and Madison. She is replaying moments when she felt like she was in second place without knowing why. When she tells a friend that she feels like she lost Madison to a life she was never allowed to touch, it hits her like a punch. She never asked Madison to choose her over Lucas, but she did ask Madison to choose the present over the past. Now she doesn't know if Madison can do that without breaking herself apart. Lucas drops a bombshell that no one sees coming during a quiet drive with Madison. He's been accepted to a college across the country. He made this decision months ago, but never told her because he didn't want to hurt his father or reopen old wounds with her. Madison's heart breaks in a new, unexpected way because she's finally back and trying, but the universe is already threatening to pull him away again. For a brief, ugly moment, she wonders if fate is punishing her for coming back too late. Madison's fear makes her go too far, and she shows up at Ethan's office without warning to argue for being included in the decision-making process. She insists she has a right to know what's going on in her son's life, and Ethan fires back that rights aren't retroactive, that showing up now doesn't erase years of absence. He regrets the words the moment they leave his mouth but can't take them back, and the argument turns into years of buried resentment, accusations of selfishness, abandonment, and love that wasn't strong enough to save a marriage or a family. Both of them are left raw and shaking, realizing that living peacefully together may be harder than either of them thought. Lucas hears part of the fight, and instead of getting closer, he pulls away, shutting down emotionally just when Madison thought they were making progress. Serena takes advantage of the situation by subtly reinforcing the idea that Madison brings chaos wherever she goes, planting seeds of doubt in Lucas's mind while still being able to deny it, because in Beyond the Gates, the most dangerous characters are the ones who never raise their voices. Chelsea finally reaches her breaking point when she sees Madison and Ethan together in public. This moment is taken completely out of context, but it is still devastating. Chelsea confronts Madison one last time, demanding brutal honesty, not promises or apologies, but the truth. Madison admits that reconnecting with Ethan has brought up feelings of guilt, responsibility, and unfinished grief that she had been ignoring for years. Chelsea realizes that she fell in love with a woman who is still mourning a life she never properly buried.